Well, I don't care how bad of a job you feel like you did as a parent over the Thanksgiving weekend. I don't care if you let your kid eat bags of candy, pumpkin pie, stay up too late, watch way too much TV. I don't care one bit. You are not as bad of a parent as the Chiefs fan in Las Vegas who showed up and went viral on national TV yesterday. My goodness. Did you see that? Welcome in. Happy Monday morning. It is great to be here on KCMO Talk Radio. So yesterday during the game, it was early in the fourth quarter, I guess right at the start of the fourth quarter. Chiefs are up 21-17, and they pan on TV, the game was on CBS, to this kid who's a Chiefs fan. And he's got the headgear on, which of course you can't wear now in Arrowhead Stadium. He's got the Native American headgear on, and he's got what appears to be blackface. Now, to be very clear, he is not in blackface. He had his face painted half black and half red. But the TV, national TV, CBS, shows this kid on TV. And they show just the right side of his face, which is painted black. So you can't really tell the left side of his face is painted red. And then he's got the Native American headgear on. And, yeah, I'm somebody who has defended the Chiefs and has ripped on everybody who's trying to cancel everything around the Chiefs. A la, Arrowhead Stadium, it's offensive. Don't do it. Don't say it. Like, I have defended the Chiefs at every turn on this stuff. But the parents who allow their kid to be exposed on national TV like that are doing a bad job. And I put this up on social media last night right before I went to bed. I'm wrapping up my Sunday, and I put this little picture up that Mark had sent me. And I said this. I said, I feel bad for this kid because he's gone viral on social media. Millions and millions of people have seen this kid's screenshot. And the reason I feel bad for him is because his parents are idiots. First off, yes, the left side of his face is red, while the right side of his face is black. So no, it's not blackface. But as a parent, it is your job to know that your kid might be a TV target from woke adults, and they can make him go viral. And you've got to do your job as a parent in that situation. And boy, did some of you get awfully triggered by that on social media. I mean, it was. I knew some of you were going to give me some pushback on this, but man, I woke up today and I was like, whoa! I mean, I ruined a lot of your Sunday nights. And
I'm getting pissed now.
I didn't mean to do that on purpose. I knew it was going to be controversial, but many of you are saying, boy, Pete, who cares? Maybe the parents simply don't care to cater to progressives. Maybe the child has Native American heritage. It's time for conservatives to show courage, writes Dana. Dana, using children as pawns is not appropriate. Using children in your political games, in our political games, is not appropriate. When the left does it, it's wrong. When they allow their kids to transition, it's wrong because they're trying to prove a political point. Now, I'm not comparing some kid showing up in headgear at a Chiefs game in Las Vegas yesterday to that, but you get the point. Involving our innocent children in political gamesmanship to try to score one against the other side is bad parenting. That's not debatable. If you are willing to allow your kids to potentially go viral and be a meme and get ripped on and get made fun of on social media, on national TV, not that the broadcasters made fun of them, but, it went viral on social media after the fact. If you are willing to put your kid in that position, regardless of what side of the political aisle you're on, you're not doing your job. Children are children. Us as adults are in a position to protect them and sometimes protect them from themselves. Maybe this kid said he wanted to wear the headgear. I don't know. I mean, I don't know how many. Kid looks like he's probably 10-ish, give or take. He's got a Kelsey jersey on. So, I don't know how many 10-year-olds are saying they want to do that and go to the games in headgear. Heck, the kid probably wasn't even born the last time you could wear those in Arrowhead, so I'm not sure if that was like a long desire of his or what the deal is. But this is something that when it comes to our job, regardless of what side of the political aisle you're on as a parent, you got to do better. 913-408-7957. That's the studio line and the text line. And if you haven't seen the photo, it's up on my Twitter page, @Pete Mundo, and it also is up on my Facebook page, Pete Mundo on KCMO Talk Radio. That's where you can see all the angry comments. I'm trying to find the best one. There's a lot of good ones. A lot of you are very upset about this. Seriously, Pete, this is from Alex. Stand for something. Show a backbone. This kid was having fun at the game. Who gives a rip? Well, because now this kid is going to see himself plastered all over social media. And by the way, what if his friends' parents see it? His school teachers see it? Then he's going to have to kowtow at some point, potentially, to the woke mob, and they're going to have to forgive all his sins. It's going to be like, the witches during Salem. I'm reading Bill O'Reilly's Killing the Witches right now. I got through about 30 pages last night, so it's top of mind for me. But that's what it's going to turn into for this poor kid. It's your job as a parent to understand, hey, you know what? We need to protect our kids, especially in this insane political climate that we find ourselves in. So the text line is 913-408-7957 as we get it rolling. Hope you had a great Thanksgiving weekend. You got some time off with family, with friends, and you got to spend a few minutes realizing we've got a lot to be thankful for. And then, of course, you could be Joe Biden, who had a press conference on Friday, the day after Thanksgiving, and he really wanted to make sure that you had a great Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving to you all. I hope you enjoyed it.
Just so inspirational. That's the leader of the free world right there. I hope you enjoyed it. Hey, how about the hostages still hanging out over there on the other side of the world with the worst terrorists on planet Earth? How was their Thanksgiving, Joe? I mean, come on, man. I'm just wondering. I know you're getting a handful back here when it comes to terrorists overseas holding on to hostages, including Americans. But the best you can get from Joe Biden is a happy Thanksgiving with a little chuckle on the back end.
Happy Thanksgiving to you all. I hope you enjoyed it.
Chuckle. Oh, boy. Even the simple things he can't get right. God bless America, man. Unbelievable. So as we roll through the morning here on KCMO Talk Radio, by the way, we're on 95.7 FM. Make sure you hit that preset on your radio dial as we come out of the Thanksgiving break, 6:13 on a Monday morning. We got a lot we're going to get into, including this. I want to tie this all together. There was a lot of tragedy in the area over the weekend, but one in particular stood out above the rest. And it ties into one of the most controversial stories that we've covered over the last few weeks. I'll explain that next right here on 95.7 FM, KCMO. Can you believe it? We got about a month left in the year, sitting here on November 27th, Monday after Thanksgiving. Another couple homicides over the Thanksgiving weekend that have not yet been counted towards the daily homicide tracker in Kansas City, Missouri. But we are on pace to break the 2020 record for homicides in this town. That's right. The latest numbers from the Kansas City, Missouri Police Department, which has not been updated since Wednesday, I guess due to the holiday, is 169 homicides year to date. That's January 1st through November 22nd. At this point in 2020, we had 166. That is the year that we set the record. So we're pacing three ahead of where we were in the record-setting year for homicides in this town in 2020. And you had another couple over the weekend that need to be noted. And then on top of that, you had this story as well. You had a pedestrian who was fatally struck after a speeding car rammed into an SUV, and that sent the SUV off the road, which fatally struck a man at about 2:30 in the afternoon yesterday. Now, a preliminary investigation per KCPD indicates a silver Chevy Malibu was heading east on Independence Avenue when it hit the SUV. The impact of the hit car caused the SUV to go off the road and hit the man who was standing near the southeast corner of the intersection. The man who was a pedestrian was transported to an area hospital. He later died, while the driver of the SUV was transported to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. So you have somebody who got killed in this tragic accident standing on a street corner in Kansas City, Missouri. This is why you want proactive policing. This is why you want cops doing things like stopping people who are speeding. There's a novel concept.
Talk about a bombshell.
And I bring this up. It ties back to the Eric DeValcanair case and the Eric DeValcanair story. Eric DeValcanair is the KCPD detective, former detective, who is right now in prison because he shot Cameron Lamb. This story goes back to 2019. We've covered it a lot lately because DeValcanair was sentenced to prison and is potentially going to get a commutation from Governor Mike Parson. But by now you know the story. If not, I'll reset it real fast, where Cameron Lamb is chasing a woman through the streets of Kansas City, Missouri in a car. It's a high-speed chase. He then backs into his own driveway, backs out of that high-speed chase. Cops are following him. Eric DeValcanair and his partner go into the backyard where Cameron Lamb is. They say Lamb pulled the gun out, and they shot Cameron Lamb, and they killed Cameron Lamb. And now Eric DeValcanair is serving prison time for shooting and killing Cameron Lamb. And, you know, a lot of people spin this story, and they've spun this story to say, well, I mean, the guy was speeding. He's speeding. He's going over the speed limit, and oh, my goodness, he ends up getting shot and killed. Well, first off, we want and we should want our law enforcement to crack down on speeding, especially in residential areas where something could happen exactly like what happened yesterday in Kansas City, Missouri, where a guy in a Chevy Malibu is speeding through a neighborhood, hits an SUV. The SUV ends up going into the street corner and, gosh, kills a man. It's terrible. It's tragic, right? We should want law enforcement to be proactively stopping speeding. Not just on the freeway, right? Not just on the highway where someone might be going 5 or 6 miles over the speed limit. I mean, that's, ticky-tacky stuff. But you got people, as Cameron Lamb was, blazing through residential neighborhoods on a high-speed car chase. And the attitude people take is, leave him alone. He was just speeding a little bit. I mean, come on. He ends up losing his life over that. Well, no, that's not why he ended up getting shot and killed. But yes, we should want police officers to be proactively stopping people who are speeding in residential neighborhoods. We should want that. All of us should want that. But in Kansas City, Missouri, and I'm not saying there was law enforcement around to potentially stop this person speeding in a Chevy Malibu, but what I will point out is that I know for a fact law enforcement in this town has taken less of a proactive approach in the wake of the Eric DeValcanair case. And you know what? That's part of this, that for all the people who are doing cartwheels that Cameron Lamb, after getting shot and killed, that Eric DeValcanair is now in prison because of that. The fact that there are a lot of people who are just, they are thrilled about the fact that Eric DeValcanair is in prison. Well, just think, too, about what that might do when it comes to policing in this town. We're already down 300 cops. We already are in a place where we are trending towards a record number of homicides in Kansas City, Missouri. Both of those things are true. And now you got cops who are looking around and saying, who's got my back? A quick misstep, even if I'm not guilty, could result in me going to prison, could result in me losing my pension, could result in my family trying to figure out how to survive without me. All of those things are possible right now, and those are the things in the backs of every KCPD officer's minds. I guarantee it. I know it. So now you got to take a step back and say, okay, well, what does this mean for the average citizen? Well, what it means is that we are going to break that record. And I am saddened to say that. I don't want that to be true. I don't want to break any homicide records in this town. We've done enough of that in recent years. But I'm not going to be naive. I'm not going to sugarcoat it for you. We are going to break the record. And in large part, it's going to be because of awful prosecutors in this community led by Gene Peters Baker. It's going to be because of the last 3 years in the defund the police movement that has resulted in us being down 300 cops. And yes, there's an element of it that's going to be because of incredibly lenient gun laws in the state of Missouri that even Republican cops I talk to admit has gone too far. I've talked to them. They've told me as much. They've admitted as much. And that's why I've been willing to look at the Second Amendment Protection Act and realize it is flawed. But anybody on the left telling you it is just the gun laws, of course, that's not the case. That's not an accurate analysis. But hey, they're only going to go after that one thing. I'm willing to admit it's a combination of several things. Most importantly, the prosecution and the treatment of cops. And yes, the gun laws can be discussed as a part of it, but not the singular reason. Coming up on KCMO, expensive over the holiday weekend? Well, this McDonald's meal might be case in point on how people are starting to feel the pinch. We'll get to it coming up. Come in the Monday morning after Thanksgiving, and the coffee machine's only got decaf. Now we got a problem. That is problematic. I'm kidding. Hope you had a great Thanksgiving long weekend. We appreciate you being here on KCMO Talk Radio. Make sure you're setting the preset now on 95.7 FM as we continue into month 2 of our 100,000 watt FM frequency. So everyone's trying to figure out still, when it comes to Joe Biden, his reelection prospects, what exactly 2024 is going to be about. Is it going to be about Trump, assuming he's the nominee? Is it going to be about his legal woes, in which case that's good for Joe Biden? Or is it going to be about Bidenomics, the failures on the world stage? What is it going to be about? Well, the Washington Post even decided to write an article here titled "The Viral $16 McDonald's Meal That May Explain Voter Anger at Joe Biden." And I'm not going to read this whole thing to you because that would be really obnoxious to read an entire article from the Washington Post the Monday after Thanksgiving to you.
Thank you.
You're very welcome there, John. That would be like forcing you to sit next to your Uncle Ed, who's going to spout progressive left-wing kookery at the Thanksgiving dinner table.
He's a cuckoo bird.
I wouldn't want to do that to you. So I'm not going to do that on a Monday morning. But I'm going to read the first couple paragraphs just to prove a point here. The Washington Post is trying to figure out why people actually are mad at Joe Biden over the economy. I mean, I know it's crazy, right? But they're like trying to figure out why the average American feels like he and she, sorry, I'm not including the they-thems, are getting screwed by this economy, by Bidenomics, which they tout and they brag about. And here's how the story starts. Back on December 20th of last year, Topher Olive went to a McDonald's in the town of Post Falls, Idaho, and ordered a limited edition smoky double quarter pounder BLT with fries and a Sprite. The meal cost $16.10, and he posted the receipt on TikTok. Even though he had ordered a novelty item, Olive's video about I love how they phrase that. The Washington Post is already making excuses for $16 fast food meals. Even though he ordered a novelty item. There are no novelty items at fast food joints. It's all crap. All right? Let's be clear about that here.
It's high end.
Okay, fine. Novelty crap. Olive's video about a $16 McDonald's order went viral, racking up hundreds of thousands of views. After a McDonald's revenue report recently, the same post went viral again earlier this month, with many other outlets picking up the story. Posts on Reddit, Twitchy, and elsewhere tied the cost of President Biden's economic management, inflation, the theory went, that had gotten so out of control that the price of a fast food burger was approaching $20. Well, yeah, I mean, that's a great example of how Bidenomics is failing the average person. I mean, you know, Mark's a McDonald's guru for him and his girls, and what's it cost you to get out of there these days, Mark, if you take the two girls? Can you get out of there for $25, $30?
Yeah, if you use the app correctly, you got to, get the discount.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You got to know how to use the app correctly.
You got to know somebody.
For 3 of us, I can usually do it for about $16, $17.
Oh, okay. So you all cut all the corners.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Well, if you don't know how to use the app, if you're not an app wizard like Mark, who's looking for every bonus under the sun, like with his gambling apps, then you're probably in for at least 30.
Yeah, it's closer to 28.
Oh, sure. You got it down to a science
Yeah.
there, man. Okay.
If the app's not working, I've had it where the app's not working, I just get really mad. I'm like, we need to go to a different McDonald's. No, we stay.
But your cost is 50% higher, give or
Yeah.
take. I mean, that's a big number. So, yes, costing $16 for a McDonald's meal is a great example of Bidenomics failing the average Kansas Cityan and the average American. So the Washington Post goes on the right. These stories soon reach the White House Office of Digital Strategy. Well, that sounds awfully Orwellian, doesn't it? The White House Office of Digital Strategy. How do we suppress these people talking about their $16 meals at McDonald's? What do we do about this? Which tracked the meme as one of many exaggerated examples of the nation's economic woes. Exaggerated examples. See, the Washington Post is downplaying the economic moment we are living in. In reality, the Washington Post writes, inflation has been steadily subsiding. And last week, the government reported price hikes had eased yet again in October. Inflation subsiding does not mean the cost is going down. It means it's not going up as fast. I know this is difficult for some of you in the White House to probably understand.
What are we talking about?
But that's how it goes. Unbelievable. And then they go on the right here in the Washington Post, and I'll end it here. The average Big Mac nationally as of this summer cost $5.58, up from $4.89, or roughly 70 cents before Biden took office. That's up more than 10%, but it's not $16. Well, way to compare something that is not what the original story was about. That is truly, so the Big Mac is up 14.3%, if you want me to be exact, since Joe Biden took office 2.5, 3 years ago now. The Big Mac is up 14%. And I love how the Washington Post writes it. That's up more than 10%. Yeah, it's up 40% more than 10%. Do some math. Notice how they don't want to write it's up nearly 15% because that looks a lot worse than that's up more than 10%. The price could be up 82%, and the Washington Post would write, well, that's up more than 10%. It's all in how you write this stuff. You really have to read between the lines. I know it's cliche, but you really have to do it to see what the Washington Post is going for here and the point that they're trying to make, which is that if you're complaining about the cost of stuff, you're a loser, shut up, you're a whiner, you're a complainer, everything's great, Joe Biden's doing an awesome job, and if you think otherwise, well, you're part of the problem because you're probably a right-wing MAGA lunatic, MAGA mooga mega, Trump sycophant, January 6th lover, what am I forgetting? Roger Stone, wannabe, weirdo.
Anti-vaxxer.
Oh, that's right. Thank you very much. Hashtag 2 shots for one.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. Very good point. Yeah, you're trying to get everybody killed as well. So I think we checked off most of the boxes right now. Meantime, people are hurting. People are going to record amounts of credit card debt to keep their lifestyles up. All this stuff is really happening every single day in front of our eyes. It's happening here in Kansas City. It's happening all over America. The American dream feels like it's out of reach for many. I read a story about that over the weekend in the Wall Street Journal, which I'll get to later this morning. Voters see the American dream slipping out of reach, according to a new poll. And at some point, the politicians are going to pay the price, and that's why inflation is the worst kind of tax you can have. Joe Biden talks about, we're going to tax the rich. The worst kind of tax you can have is inflation. It's regressive. It hurts the poor to the working class the most. They're the ones impacted by milk and eggs going up, not the top 1%. And his economic policies, which he has lied through his teeth about helping the little guy on for the last 3 years, has done nothing but screw the little guy at every single turn. And the American people, based on all the polling we're seeing as of late, are starting to wake up to it. 913-4087-957 as we roll through the 6 o'clock hour. I mean, you just got off a weekend trip. I know many of you did, whether it was traveling by car, by plane, having family over. I got to imagine this was part of your Thanksgiving conversations. Now, I know some of you probably totally avoided it because you didn't want your crazy Uncle Ed talking about how great of a job, Grandpa was doing. But I guarantee you, I know this came up with some of your Thanksgiving conversations. And I'd be curious to hear how here on KCMO Talk Radio. 644, I've got something going on right now that I've not had in 2.5 years in my life. I'll explain that, and we'll get to Kendall Gammon, former Chiefs player, talk about the game yesterday, top of the hour, right here on KCMO 95.7 FM. So one of the worst parts of this time of the year is, I try to not check my email as frequently over a holiday weekend. It's hard not to, but I try not to. Well, then you wake up on Sunday or Monday morning, and it's like, whoa, you got 807 missed emails, and it's from the same, 100 people who are telling you about the Black Friday sales. Oh, Black Friday extended, and all that kind of nonsense. And now Cyber Monday. And I know many of you know exactly what I'm talking about. But one thing I was surprised by is how many emails I got on Saturday telling me Black Friday had been extended. Now, that's not a good sign as far as I can tell. When they're doing the whole, it's Black Friday, take advantage now. And then on Saturday, actually, Black Friday's been extended, kind of like the boy who cried wolf. That would signal to me that sales on Black Friday in many cases did not meet expectations. But here's the data. According to an Adobe Analytics report, Black Friday e-commerce spending popped 7.5% from a year earlier, reaching a record $9.8 billion in the U.S. Now, some people are going to look at that and say, see, the economy's great. I mean, man, this is fantastic. Wow, look at these numbers, man. These are awesome. No, I'm sorry, Gramps.
Come on, man.
I'm not going to give you that. What I think the driver of that is that retail is in the toilet. A lot of you sent me videos over the weekend of Black Friday shopping being non-existent. Like literally Black Friday doors opening at some major retailers. And it's like, guy just walks in holding a cup of coffee. It's not like the old days when people were punching each other to get the first TV off the rack or whatever. Those days appear to be gone. And thank goodness, because we acted like a bunch of animals on Black Friday back in the day. I never did it. I never subscribed to it. I was not going to do the Black Friday insanity. But you would see some of the videos, and it's like literally people acted like cavemen and women. It was insane. So what it signals to me is that, yes, I think we're heading for a softer holiday season spending-wise, but a lot of it is shifting to online. Now, I know there's certain things about shopping in person that people enjoy, but you can tell me if I'm wrong at 913-408-7957. Who the heck wants to go to a mall or a major department store, not just on Black Friday, but literally any day? There's nothing that is less appealing to me than having to do that right now. Not just because of the crowd potential, not just because of the chaos, not just because of the time that it takes, but heck, we got 2 shootings at area malls here in Kansas City in the last few weeks, at Independence Center and then at Oak Park Mall. It's like, if I can do it online, why am I going to drag myself off my couch, go to a mall, and deal with any of that? And when I see this story here that shows Black Friday shopping was up 7.5% in online sales, 7.5% in online sales from last year to a record $9.8 billion. I'm sure there's going to be someone today who's going to tell you how it's great for the economy and everything is going awesome and Black Friday online sales are up 7.5%. But to me, that's much more about how people are shopping, not necessarily how much money they're spending. And they also may just be taking advantage of the deals this weekend and then basically saying, hands off, I've done my shopping, I'm done. I could see that being the case as well. And by the way, that's what Adobe believes is ultimately going to happen. This report from CNBC says Black Friday generated $9.8 billion in U.S. online sales. The spending bump reflects consumers looking to take advantage of big deal days and finding it easy. Big deal days. Say that one 10 times in a row and try not to screw it up with something that would force Mark to hit the dump button. Big deal days and finding it even easier to compare discounts online. Well, that's the other thing. It's easier to compare those discounts online. But then the report notes, after Cyber Monday today, sales will likely taper off throughout the rest of the holiday season as retailers trim discounts. So I'm still not convinced we're headed for this big, awesome spending season. But we do know this. Americans are willing to stick things on the credit card. We have a record amount of credit card debt that is out there right now. And something tells me that that's not going anywhere. We are addicted to consumerism as a culture and as a country. And it's horrible. I mean, like, we like investing in frivolous things. We like buying frivolous things more than anything else, which makes no sense and is kind of a backwards thought. But that's what American culture has become. And we're going to keep doing that through the holidays, and we're going to keep dumping it on the credit card because that's the American way, air quotes, the American way. And I'll tell you what else. It'll keep Dave Ramsey in business for a very long time. Coming up 3 to 5 here on KCMO 95.7 FM. But if you were out there, if you were taking in the masses, because I don't bother doing it, I would like to hear from you at 913-408-7957 as we roll through the 7 o'clock hour on a Cyber Monday morning. Pete Mundo on KCMO Talk Radio, back right after the news. 7:35, happy Cyber Monday. I know some of you are hopefully listening on the KCMO Talk Radio app as you also shop on your phone. Wherever you're doing it this morning, we appreciate you being a part of the show. Now, this is a great point on the text line. I'm glad you brought this up, 7248. Pete, what if the overall spending is up 7.5% from last year on Black Friday online, in large part because the merchandise is more expensive this year, courtesy of inflation? Well, I don't know if it's up 7.5%, but when you factor in more people shopping from home, combined with increased cost of goods, that is an outstanding point. Maybe this is not even close to the win that some people want to make it out to be. If you want to talk about these numbers from Black Friday as some kind of huge windfall and a sign that everyone loves the economy and everything is going well. 913-408-7957. Welcome in. Let's say hi to Jonathan. He's in Kansas City. What's up, Jonathan?
Hey, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, man. What's happening?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I was thinking was, I think part of it might be the inflation. But then the other thing is, so I work at an unnamed hotel, and our occupancy was really, really low this last week. And I know people are traveling for Thanksgiving, so I'm thinking, the hotels are way inflated with the room rates, and people are inflated with everything else, so they just can't afford to travel this year,
So what, I mean, I don't know if you have those numbers off the top of your head, but out of curiosity, what would the occupancy rate typically be Thanksgiving weekend compared to what it was?
I don't know what it normally. I mean, I'm led to believe it's higher. I'm not really sure, but it just seemed really low, and people were kind of saying that. And I also think so. I went past a Golden Corral, and the line. I don't know if you saw like the lines that people were waiting in to go in there, and I'm like, that's probably because of the inflation, because it's cheaper to go in there and pay $20 for a meal than to buy everything in the grocery store at inflated prices and make a meal out of it.
Is that a thing? Jonathan, thank you. I had not seen that. Golden Corral is now having record long lines for people looking to get a reasonable bite to eat. I don't know. I mean, I still think you're better off cooking at home than you are eating Golden Corral. Plus, you might avoid the heart attack as well to boot, which is always a good thing. But I had not seen that. But I had a lot of people sending me videos over the weekend of Black Friday shopping essentially being non-existent. And you know how I feel. Like, I think technology over the last 15 years has been incredible for a multitude of reasons. There have been pitfalls a la social media. But if one thing positive comes out of the technology-based culture we find ourselves in, if one of the things that we get rid of is Black Friday shopping where people are punching each other over TVs and laptops, then that's a win. Instead, we'll punch each other over stupid, book bans and things like that, but at least we're not punching each other over TVs and laptops and smart speakers and things like that. But I know everybody was racing to Best Buy in Kansas City to get a Google Home so they could stream KCMO Talk Radio on it. I know that was happening. Just tell your Google to play KCMO Talk Radio and you'll be all set. Oh, boy. Now, we do have some polling out there, by the way, based on the economy and where things are at right now. And they keep getting worse for the guy in charge. And he celebrated his 81st birthday 1 week ago today. So happy birthday there, Gramps.
Boom, boom, boom.
There you go. He's a week into his 81st birthday. And Politico put this together very nicely. They put together all the recent polls that have been done. Fox News, NBC, Emerson College, Quinnipiac, New York Times, Rasmussen. And every single poll outside of one shows that Joe Biden's voter share in a head-to-head matchup with Donald Trump has gone down from a month ago. They were all different by a couple of points, but every single poll outside of Rasmussen, so that's 5 of 6, show Joe Biden having less of a share of the voter base in a head-to-head matchup with Donald Trump than he did a month ago. And the biggest reason for that in every one of these polls is young voters. 18 to 34-year-old voters in every one of these polls, Biden has a single-digit lead. This after he won this group by 20-plus points in 2020. The younger people are the ones getting hit the most. Mark Falter, who's our financial guru, you hear him on Saturday and Sunday mornings at 9 o'clock. He's made this point on our show, and I think it's a great point. He said, for a lot of retirees, a lot of boomers who are like, gosh, the economy, Bidenomics, it stinks. He's like, if they step away from Fox News for a second, they'll actually realize they're in a pretty good spot because they can get 5% on a money market right now for zero risk. And most of them are already, homeowners. They're in their house. For many of them, it's paid off. Like, they've got it okay right now, all things considered. That doesn't mean that Bidenomics doesn't hurt you. That doesn't mean that, if you're living on Social Security in large part, your money's not going as far. All that's true. But he said for older generations with some money, they're actually in a pretty good spot. This economy is okay for them. But then you factor it down to the younger folks. And they're the ones who are getting hurt. And you're seeing that in these polls. Biden's lead is shrinking massively with younger voters, but it's growing with boomers. Think about that. Typically, you'll have older voters more likely to vote Republican and younger voters more likely to vote Democrat. The polls are suggesting the opposite is happening. And that's not to say that older voters aren't going to come home for Republicans necessarily, but it's just showing you the direction of each generation. The older voter is skewing more in favor of Joe Biden, and the younger voter is skewing more in favor of Donald Trump in a theoretical head-to-head. And that is something that nobody would have predicted 3 years ago based on how the 2020 election went. Now, I do also think there's something that has to be considered right now. Because a lot of people who are excited by this polling are doing cartwheels and saying Trump's going to win and the whole thing. And I know we got, 11 months to go. But while we've got these polls in front of us, let me simply just make this point. And it's not to sour anyone's aspirations or rain on the parade. But remember this. If we do get that rematch, right now, Donald Trump's kind of an afterthought. A lot of people aren't thinking about him. He's got some of the legal things going on, but he's not getting 24/7, 365 coverage. If we do get the rematch, and if that does come next fall, you and I both know the media will do its job and go into overdrive. There will be no talk about inflation. There will be no talk about the economy. There will be no talk about the horrible job that was done, on foreign policy from Afghanistan to Russia to Iran to how this thing is going right now between Israel and Hamas. None of that is going to be brought up. It's going to be nonstop, all in, every single day. Trump, 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 Trump. You and I both know that's exactly how it's going to go.
Fake news.
I know, but it's not going to change how it's going to play out. And that could swing things a couple points either way. We'll see. And I do think a lot of young voters may ultimately end up coming home to Grandpa, but we'll have to wait and see on that as well. Coming up, the good, the bad, and the ugly from the weekend. We'll get to that. Then we got Steve Moore, a economic advisor to Donald Trump. He'll be here at 8 o'clock. Kevin Keatsman at 9, part of a busy next couple of hours on KCMO, now on 95.7 FM. Hit that preset. We are kicking off the post-Thanksgiving Monday with you on 95.7 FM, KCMO. Hit that preset. Welcome in. So, Kansas City, Missouri has egg on its face after this one, middle of last week. There was a lot of news that just dumped middle of last week, right? Kind of like the just awful Kansas license plates that got rolled out for 2024, yellow and black with no character on the Kansas license plates. Woo, those are bad. And then there was this this is from the official Kansas City, Missouri city government's Facebook page. And it reads here, the city of Kansas City achieved a perfect score of 100 on the Municipal Equality Index from the Human Rights Campaign for the third consecutive year. The milestone reflects our commitment to fostering a diverse and inclusive community for all.
I like the action words. These statements, it's like the old thing that used to help you write a resume, the forms on like Word or document. Here, use these words. I'm like, wow.
It's a bunch of garbage.
Symbolic.
We are about to set a record for people getting killed in this town. We had another couple of murders over the weekend. I don't have the official updated number yet. The KCPD daily homicide tracker has not been updated since November 22nd. But we are outpacing 2020 for homicides in this town. We're at 169 as of November 22nd, so we're in the 170s right now. The record is 179. And the audacity of this city to put up some nonsensical BS about how they've achieved a perfect score on the Municipal Equality Index. What is that? Municipal Quality Index from the Human Rights Campaign. You know what? When I think about human rights in this town, I think about 170 people getting killed. That's what I think about. Instead, the Human Rights Campaign, as they call themselves here, the Human Rights Campaign is an American LGBTQ advocacy group. It's the largest political lobbying organization within the United States. That's what they are. And it's like, okay, listen, I don't want anyone who's gay, who's trans, I don't want anybody who's LGBTQ to be treated any differently than anybody else. I don't want that. That would be the wrong way to treat a fellow human being. Now, there's nothing to suggest that was happening in Kansas City to begin with. Certainly not at city government, which is really what this is about, right? This isn't about people on the streets being bums or bozos. This is about the city government. And the city government decides that, let's promote this. Let's brag about this. As if we're all supposed to just throw our hand. Oh, boy, if you are privileged enough to care about this when it wasn't even a problem to begin with, that says a lot about you. And you've got a city that right now, when it comes to people suffering, has a lot of it. Has a lot of it at the hands of individuals who have weapons, who are bad folks who are being let out onto the streets. And the city decides right before Thanksgiving, boy, it might have a lot of murders, but how about that 100 score on the Municipal Equality Index that we got last week, John? Whew, boy.
Well, I feel like it comes from a group of people where you're saying, it's good to be us, I guess, right now in this city. But, the left-handed thought is it sucks to be you. I mean, a certain group of people might be doing well. They've got a seat at the table.
Yeah. Well,
we're fostering diversity.
And I'm okay with a seat at the table. But this is...
It doesn't get anything done.
It doesn't get anything done.
That's right. There's been too many conversations,
too
many table settings, too many place settings, etc.
Well said after Thanksgiving, by the way. Too many place
Work
settings.
it in there.
And that's what ultimately this is about. and leave it to the city to brag about it and what a great job they're doing. And it's a total embarrassment is what it really is. Now, I don't know about you, but I know some folks maybe were down on the plaza for the lighting last week. I don't know if you were, but John brought up a good point here. We were talking about it earlier this morning, and he brought up some of the headlines from some of our local news, and they referenced the hundreds of people that showed up. Now, I know many of you, John included, will think back to the good old days when we were talking about the thousands who would show up.
Oh, yeah, tens of thousands maybe.
Yeah.
At one point.
And now here we are with hundreds of people showing up. Now, how was the weather that night? I wasn't in town. Was the weather okay? Could they blame the weather or no? Weather was all right?
It was cold, chilly, but not like it. That wouldn't be the reason that people didn't go.
Yeah.
You know, that
I wouldn't
have
think
been
so.
That
Okay.
held it down.
So the weather was pretty much par for the course. All right, good.
Yeah.
Maybe people didn't want to see Tech 9. I don't know. I mean, I don't mind Tech 9. My girl's like
he's
a
got
little
a
Tech
cheap
9.
song. He's as popular as anybody in town, right?
Yeah, I would think so, too.
In general.
So I don't think it's a Tech 9 thing.
No.
I don't think it's a weather thing. Maybe it's just a people not feeling comfortable thing. Maybe it's all the bad publicity that has come to the plaza over the last, really 3.5 years, but it's been bad the last couple of months. Maybe that's people coming to the conclusion that, you know what, I don't want to go down to the plaza for the light switch because, well, I'll see it on my own time. And frankly, I don't want to have to order a new bulletproof vest. It won't be here in time. So I'm going to pass, John. I'll skip it.
Yeah, I feel like maybe part of it's the safety. There's another part of it where it's a minor effort to go and do all of that. And so now it's not worth the effort.
Yeah.
So that's at least the first line you cross.
If you are going to make or try to get people down there, you're right. It has to be worth the effort. And for too many people, when they're weighing the pros and cons right now, it's not worth the effort. It's really that simple. And when you go from having tens of thousands to thousands to now hundreds show up, it's a bad sign, really bad sign. So I noted I wasn't in town. I was visiting some family out of town, and we had to fly on Wednesday morning, and then I came back on Friday. And, man, it was the worst travel experience of my life on both ends. I'll share that with you, and you can sympathize with me. Coming up next on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM.